Question is education for what purpose? For securing human prosperity in Africa. What does prosperity look like? What are its contents? I would say, first of all, from a development framework, I am looking at something I call integral development, which looks at development with identity. Who are the people in Africa? How many ethnic groups, tribes make that up? And what does that mean to be developed? What is the paradigm that they're trying to create for their nations, for their cultures, for their continent? Then it's development that is empowering. Education, therefore, must be about empowerment. Education must also be such that the issues of equality between gender, between ethnic groups, should be also on the table. And of course, equity. Education that allows for equitable development across ethnic groups, regions, countries. So that's a broad framework.
Well, there are various measures of accountability that can be adopted. Of course, you mentioned the issue of being accountable to the donor. Donor must insist that NGOs account financially for the funds they receive. In other words, there must be a good monitoring and evaluation system in place. Not all NGOs have that. Then there must also be accountability to the ultimate beneficiaries. In other words, NGOs must adopt participatory approach to development. In other words, you want to, if you are doing evaluation, you do participatory evaluation.
Good question. You've kind of answered the question for us in that we've been pretty lucky in that as a part of this implementation is that we've had interagency groups as a part of advising us and guiding us as we implement. In addition to interagency groups, we have regular, and I do mean regular, conference calls, a round table, brainstorming.
But I asked myself, if I were emperor, at least in the area of higher education, what are the things I would like to do to create the greatest impact in higher education in Africa? As you know, I believe our panel here represents education at a three-tiered system, hierarchical level, where you have primary, fundamental at the bottom, secondary, and tertiary. I've talked a lot more on tertiary education than on the rest, but I recognize the importance of that. And if I were to have the capacity, and I have just a fraction of that, to make things change in Africa, it would be the creation of an African Science Foundation.
We at USAID, particularly in the Education Division in the Africa Bureau, are excited about education in Africa. And we are excited because of the things that you do. And especially when it comes to that small NGO and those minority organizations, we are excited because we feel that funding you is really worth it.
One of the things that was just barely mentioned here, but is critically important, is early childhood education. So we need to be sure that we're challenging young minds to enable that lifelong learning we need to see. That's easily as important as tertiary education.
As a representative of the NGO community, I want to say that we are constantly trying to do the best we can to support African education. There is no doubt that we have a role to play. It is how we play it that is important. What we do, and we are constantly innovating the way we work, making sure that we live to our mission